G'day from Sydney, Australia. I'm Nathan Tyler and you're looking at a little bit of history. We're standing on the cliffs above the Colo River in a place called Lower Portland, northwest of Sydney. And just across the river here is a property called Hebron and was the location of Hebron Missionary College. There are very few people who are alive who remember the story of this place. One of them is Elaine Weymark. I caught up with her a little bit earlier, and this is what she had to say.
It was a gathering place for the youth, and it was purchased in 1943 to have that river going right around it till it's almost an island. I don't think that river flows like that in any other place, only where Hebron is. Classes were held from 6 to 8 a.m. We're up at 5 o'clock.
Right.
In the dark, in the freezing, in the frost. I used to have to run. And Brother Stewart, he used to he whistled all the way from his house, the stone house, to the student's house. And as soon as they'd hear him whistling, they'd all get out of bed and run around and be ready. The subjects studied were English, which is speech training, descriptive writing, Bible character stories, and prophecy was learning all the fulfillments, and physiology, the care of the body, and then later on market gardening when it came in later. I don't think there was any actually 3-year course or anything. You just stopped there as long as you wanted to stop. There was always work for you to do, always. I think Harry was there for 5 years. Brother Britton, he was there for 3, I think, because they needed him in the clinic. Brother and Sister Southwell had their time together as a family there. So they were working. Brother Southwell was the main one who built the church. They made, and their family at that time, those students, they made all the bricks from the sand down near the river and made all these cement blocks until we had a foundation, and then the church was built on top. What did I do there? Well, my brother George was a student. And at that time, while he was up there, I was already working in the Union Conference Centre at Summerhill. And at one time, Brother Stewart and his family was living up there in the stone house. And I often went up there for days at a time and joined in with the college education and orchard work. And Sister McMahon was often up there with Henry. And she was a treasurer at the time, and I'd help her. And also Brother MacDonald, he had his time for the treasury, and I worked with him up there. At 5 o'clock, like the rest, since I heard Brother Stewart stir, I knew it was time to get up and go up to the students with him. And good. In the winter time, there was always such a beautiful big fire. And a huge fireplace there. They all had their place at the table, a big long table, and they had their books, and I just sat near the fire.
I'm standing here on the Hebron property and I'm struck by how peaceful and quiet it is and how large the place is. And what a place it must have been when the students used to be here.
The study book for the missionary college was the book Education by Sister White. And the motto for all students was on page 57. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who will not be bought or sold. Men who in their inmost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. and men whose conscience is as true to duty as the needle to the pole, men who will stand for the right though the heavens fall. After they'd been up there a while, they needed their practice, and they got interested in different kinds of missionary work. Some went into health, and because we had the clinic there at Summerhill, and others went into the fields when they were ready to go, taking responsibility in another state. Different ones went to Queensland, because Sydney, and there was a centre in every state except Darwin, and then because we had New Zealand as well included in our area.
There must have been some fertile land here beside the river, and Sister Elaine remembers what they used to grow on the farm.
Well, the Hebron Missionary College had already established orchards, and there were several varieties of oranges and many mandarins and a plum orchard with different plums as well. In the early days, all the produce for the markets was picked up by the Surprise, which was the name of the boat who stopped at the jetty near the packing shed. Our oranges from Hebron, at the markets, they reserved them always for the military service. They said they were the choice of the oranges on the Colo River. Now in 1946, that's when they decided to have market gardening as well as the other fruit and trees. So this was for practical education. So then the land was cleared and irrigation systems set up to pump water from the Colo River. So we had acres of cabbages, and when in season, watermelons and pumpkins. So they were all ready had to take them to the markets as well. And then there was a sawmill. Brother Stewart laboured in a sawmill at one time when he was younger. And so he set up a sawmill, and they used to make all their own boxes for the oranges for the markets, and also they'd cut timber for building, and they sold a lot.
As I understand it, the project got involved in a little bit of debt, and one day, in what was certainly not one of our finest moments, the property was sold. Sister Elaine remembers that, at least for the young people, it was a decision that was immediately regretted.
It's not until you haven't got it. That's what we found. The young people, when they didn't have it, then you realise what you've lost. We did begin by donations. When we first spoke about having a college, and lots of people gave what they could, and that was how we began. But it was always a hard, it never seemed to get to the end. Because we could not seem to be free of debt at this period of our history, our GC representative who came to preside at our Union Conference thought it better to be relieved of the debt. And it was strange now for the youth to not have this property, and it was always talked about to have another property. So Brother Ashmore from Western Australia donated $10,000, and it was decided then that another property be purchased. That property was the Elam Heights Youth Camp at Melong. This has been a wonderful experience for the youth, especially having the missionary school with overseas students. The Union Conference held there were very well attended. We do thank the Lord for the Elam Heights Youth Camp and Conference Centre. Now even today, that road that comes from Lower Portland to our place is still called Hebron Road to our entrance. I think having everybody into unity with the same thoughts, the same teaching, the same development. It all makes you one big family. You know, wherever you go, we're all just the one big family. Because having conferences, everybody enjoyed conferences, coming to Hebron, and no matter which state you're in. And there's always that bonding of wonderful times, telling experiences and encouraging each other, just keep pressing on. And the work of Reformation was needed at this time of this world's history. That's why I think I'm so happy about Elam Heights, because it's a continuation for my generation, now this next generation. If they could have that same experience at Elam Heights. I just do enjoy talking about the things that I grew up with, and it gives me courage that the work of Reformation will continue. And I'm thankful I can still remember a lot. And thank you for your interest, otherwise Hebron would be forgotten.
You know, by telling these stories and coming back and reviving these memories, it is hoped that we can learn our lessons from history and that our future endeavors for our young people can be as wonderful, encouraging, and a blessing as this place was for those that attended Hebron Missionary College.
If I hadn't have had that time to establish yourself into what you really believe and want to do in life, it never leaves you, and it's always a very happy memory to think about Hebron and all the different people that came there, and they're all a part of your life.